Here we are on Yakushima Island, 60 kilometers south of Kyushu. We're in the subtropical laurel forest of Nagata. We reached this point after following the Yakushima macaques all morning. It is here in this area, covered in laurel forest, that we have been following the troop for many years. This film series, Human, I think can be said to have had its beginning some 50 years ago with the beginning of research on the Japanese monkey. A great many reports and publications have been written, but I would like to start this program with the mainland Japanese macaque and the Yakushima Island macaque. This is also the starting point of our country's research on primates. It was from this species that we spread out to study the gorilla and chimpanzee, and later on expanded to human hunter-gatherer societies, in the quest to understand the evolution of human society. Let us look first at the mechanism that maintains the social organization of Japanese macaques, its social structure, and then move on in the series to look at other primate species. Yakushima macaques are not provisioned and can be observed in their natural state. This is Dr. Tamaki Maruhashi. He has been studying the Yakushima macaques for more than 20 years. Let's learn in more detail from him about these interesting monkeys.
This is the Yakushima macaque. The prime characteristic of the research ongoing since 1973 is that we are following many neighboring troops within this one forest. A second characteristic is that these groups are not provisioned. They have become habituated to the presence of humans over many years. They are being studied in the environment in which they evolved, and we are thus observing their natural behaviors. It was the aim of many young researchers who began their studies here to gain a new perspective of Japanese macaque by using this method. Even within Japan, Yakushima is known for its great amounts of rainfall. Blessed with abundant moisture and warm temperate climate, Yakushima is widely covered in lush vegetation. In the background, we see Mount Kuniwari of western Yakushima. Our research site lies on the slopes of this mountain. Within Asia, this area is widely known for having the longest continuous representation of floral zones. This area is represented by mixed stands of Ako and Gajumaru. Above this zone, we find sea and tap-dominated subtropical laurel forest. Above that is the mixed coniferous zone of cedar, pine, and fir. At the top of the peaks, we can find the Yakushima bamboo grass zone. On the peaks, the average temperature is similar to that of the Shimokita Peninsula in the north of Japan. This means that the entire habitat range of the Japanese macaques, extending from Shimokita in the far north to Yakushima in the extreme south, is condensed onto this single island. The mammalian fauna of Yakushima is unusual. For large mammals, there is only the Yakushima macaque and Yakushima deer. These two are both subspecies of their main island cousins. One characteristic of the Yakushima macaque is the way the head hair is parted down the middle in many adult males. This is caused by the fact that the muscles which move the jaw continue all the way up to the crest of the head. This is thought to be the product of severe male-male competition. Evidence for this can be found by investigating the bones of dead males. Broken and mended bones as well as indentations in skulls can be found. Furthermore, key traits used in the individual identification of animals, including cut to the mouth and ears, as well as broken or bent digits, are all thought to be evidence of intense competition between males. As for females, the hair on their cheeks is quite long. As females get older, the hair becomes wavy, and when viewed close up, it appears as if there are stripes in the head fur. Another important characteristic of Yakushima macaque is that the infants are dark black. An important event in the history of Yakushima macaque happened over 6,300 years ago. A large volcano erupted. The ash covered the island and many animals perished. From this event, creatures of special characteristics survived and flourished. When the number of individuals suddenly decreased and the survivors once again multiplied in number, we see what is called the bottleneck effect. In genetic terms, the new population is biased toward a fewer number of traits. In other words, reduced genetic diversity. A day in the life of a monkey is a cyclic repetition of traveling, feeding, and resting. During resting time, grooming is the main activity and is one of the most important social behaviors in primates. It has been demonstrated that lice and their eggs are being removed from the fur. Grooming is a measure of closeness between individuals. Grooming occurs most frequently among members of the same lineage or kin group. Peculiar to the Yakushima macaque is that adult troop males groom each other. The diet of these monkeys is mainly leaves and fruits. The energy needed for activity is sugar, and this comes mainly from fruits. Protein is needed for physical development, and this comes mainly from leaves. The protein in leaves accounts for about 8% dried weight. Fruits contain no protein but are full of energy giving sugars. There are two types of leaves, evergreen and deciduous. The lifespan of evergreen leaf is 2 to 3 years. It is therefore necessary that leaves continue to produce energy through photosynthesis over a long period of time. Damage to the leaves can pose a strong threat to the plant survival. They need some way to protect themselves. Plants can protect themselves from damage incurred by being overeaten in two ways. One way is physical defense. Having large amounts of indigestible fibers or other matters in the leaves does this. Another way is through chemical defense. This is done by producing toxic or noxious secondary metabolites that discourage animals from eating it. Monkeys eat evergreen leaves such as himeyuzuriha by leaving the hard mid vein and eating the softer outer sides. On the other hand, because deciduous leaves bud in the spring and drop their leaves in the fall, They are able to produce leaves frequently enough to survive seasonal damage by folivores. They have only a weak ant-feeding defense. It is important for monkeys to eat a combination of different types of leaves. This prevents nutritional imbalance. It is necessary also in order to keep the level of poison from leaves to a minimum or to avoid them altogether. The main food source for Yakushima macaque is leaves and fruits. In particular, fruits that mature from spring to early summer. It is also important that there be fruits that mature in winter. From the beginning of spring to early summer, there is tabu, ako, and yamamomo. Even in the middle of winter, fruits are ripening. Representative species are bari-bari, mokutachibana, shiratamakazzura, and hanagasa. These species help to determine the density of Yakushima macaques. Japanese macaques are found not only in the laurel forest zone, like Yakushima macaques, but also inhabit deciduous forest zone of heavy snowfall. A fundamental difference between these two areas is home range size. The difference is quite large, with that of snowy region being 10 times larger per individual. The Yakushima macaques form small troops side by side, but in the deciduous forest zone, Japanese monkey range over much larger areas, and troops tend to be sparsely distributed. In winter, with all the leaves gone, the only food remaining is bark and winter buds. The nutritional content of each bud is high, but it takes time to eat enough, making it difficult to balance time spent eating with amount of energy stored. Bark is plentiful, but because it is high in fiber and difficult to digest, the amount of energy obtainable is low. One important way of overcoming this problem and getting through the winter months is to reduce energy expenditure by traveling less. On particular cold days, a troop will stay put and huddle close together. In early spring, young buds and grasses appear. Monkeys are able to recover from the deficiency of winter by eating these foods. This monkey is poking at a dead branch. A slug grows out. Insects and other invertebrates such as cicadas are another important source of protein for Japanese macaques. Occasionally, frogs and lizards too are eaten. Let us consider the relationship between the monkeys and the forest. Plants have two chances to move or spread their genes. One way is by flowering and sending their pollen off to other trees. Another means is to produce seeds and have them dispersed. There are various modes of seed dispersal, but in the forest, the most important one is the use of animals as dispersal agents. This is bari-bari no ki. The fruits of bari-bari are stuffed in the mouth and kept in this bulge below the cheek. This is known as a cheek pouch. The cheek pouch is pocket on the inside of the cheek. Monkeys will temporarily put the food that they collect while holding into one of two pouches inside the mouth. They will then remove them one at a time after they have moved to a resting spot or even while traveling. In this case, the fruit is eaten and the seeds are scattered widely, spitting them out across the landscape. Monkeys like to rest in bright open areas, on cliff top and dry places. Here, they often spit out the seeds of fruit that they have foraged on in the forest. In this way, species of trees in the dark forest use animals to carry their seeds off to bright open areas more suitable for germination and growth. Japanese macaques are also active seed dispersers in another way. They distribute seeds with their feces. These feces were just deposited by a monkey. As you can see, it is full of seeds. These are probably the seeds of Shiratamakazura. Such small seeds are swallowed with the food and are easily dispersed with the feces. Monkeys will defecate 4 to 5 times a day and travel about 1,000 meters. Thus, seeds are on average dispersed at intervals of about 200 to 300 meters. There is another important step in this process. If dung beetles comes on the scene, they will take this process one step further as secondary dispersers and bury such small seeds in the ground. With fruits, one simply needs to go where they are, but it is a different matter when leaves are concerned. The highly damaged tree behind me is Crema orientalis. That branches are damaged because monkeys continuously feed upon it. Monkeys maintain home ranges. They know where all foods within it are, and when they are ready to eat. Such useful information is passed down from mother to offspring. When trees are damaged like this, as a protective measure, the tree produces more leaves. In order to eat these leaves, monkeys end up breaking branches and causing even further damage. This becomes a cyclic process, and the tree becomes even more damaged. This is not limited to tremor, but is a common trait for all trees eaten by monkeys. Members of a troop in a forest emit this vocalization when they cannot easily see each other. It helps group members to know where each other are. We call it a coup call. When analyzed on computer, this is what a coup call looks like. The horizontal axis is time, and the vertical axis is wave frequency. The bottom line is called fundamental frequency. As we move upward, we reach frequency 2, 3, 4, 5 times above the fundamental frequency. Such a sound is said to possess harmonic structure. This vocalization is being made by females struggling behind the group. It is a long-distance form of the cuckoo. These females are energetically calling out to solicit a response from members of their troop up ahead. There are two functions for the production of this harmonic structure. One is to be easily heard long distance away, and the other is to be easily locatable.
Research on Japanese macaques started at Cape Toi-misaki in the southeastern part of Miyazaki Prefecture in Kyushu. This was in the fall of 1948. Shunzo Kawamura and I were assisting Dr. Imanishi on his feral horse research when we first happened to see a procession of Japanese monkeys passing along the edge of the pasture. After that, interested to learn more about monkeys, we traveled to Koshima Island, where our first field study on them began. By 1952, we had begun to follow several monkey troops at locations around Japan. Whenever we tried to approach, they would run away. Even if we could hear them, we were unable to see them. Finally, in 1952, at Koshima, we were successful in provisioning our first troop of monkeys. By 1960, primatological studies began around the world. At this point, research on Japanese macaques had been well underway for more than 10 years. At the very end of our research at Toi-misaki, Imanishi had set up 3 basic guidelines for research on horses. Guideline number 1 was to base observations on individual identification. Guideline number 2 was that the goal of research was to be comparative sociology in nature. Guideline number 3, studies were to be long-term, detailed observation of specific groups. Research on the Japanese macaque was started using these exact same guidelines. The first big success made by individual identification was to determine the social structure of the troop. Before that point, we were not even able to see the monkeys clearly in the forest. After reaching this level, we conducted what became the world-renowned research on primate culture. Individual identification was most important in our analyzing how potato washing on Koshima Island was transmitted between individuals and from generation to generation. Over many years of hard work, the genealogical relationships of troop members became clear. It was at Arashiyama that Dr. Naoki Koyama and colleagues conducted groundbreaking research into the significance of kinship on social organization and behavior, based on these basic records. I would now like to ask Dr. Koyama to describe for you these results.
That is the alpha male of Arashiyama E troop, glance 64, 71, 73. And this is the alpha female, Mino 63, 69, 74. Provisioning and research on the Arashiyama troop began in 1954. From that year on, detailed birth records have been kept and the troops' genealogical records maintained. This is the Kojiwa lineage. In 1957, a female named Kojiwa gave birth to Mino. Mino then gave birth to a female in 1963. This infant was given the name Mino 63. In 1969, she gave birth to a female and her infant was named Mino 6369. Using this system, the instant an infant is born, it has a name. I began my research at Arashiyama in 1964. My topic of interest was the effect of kinship on inter-individual relationships. In particular, I was interested in the effect of this on rank relationships between individuals.
そういったものにどのような影響を与えているかということに興味を持っていたわけです。普通は
This is called supplanting behavior. When someone dominant approaches a subordinate and sits down, the subordinate gets up and moves away. In this way, we are able to determine the dominance-subordinance relationships of members in a group. When such interactions cannot be easily observed in natural situations, a peanut or other favorite food of the monkeys can be tossed in between them and their rank relationship determined. We call this the peanut test. This individual is dominant over the other. Dominant-subordinate relationships basically express the relationship between two individuals. However, between sisters, the younger was found to be dominant over the older. This is called the youngest ascendancy principle, and for the most part is a general rule here at Arashiyama.
基本的にそういうマシ優位の現象っていうのが見られております。調査を進めている
Partway through my research in 1966, I observed the fissioning process of the Arashiyama troop into two new troops. At the time, there were two dominant males. Zora was the son of a previous alpha female named Tokiwa. The other male, Ao, was the son of the seventh ranking female beta. At the time of fission, Ao became alpha of this group, and Zora became alpha of this group. Thus, the 8th to 16th ranking lineage groups automatically obtain relatively higher positions in the newly formed troop, and the middle-ranking females of this group, in effect, drop to the bottom of the hierarchy in this newly formed troop. This is how, after fissioning, Arashiyama A and B troops were formed. Troops rarely fission, so I was fortunate to have witnessed this one. A lot was learned about the social structure and dynamics of Japanese macaques from this single incident. In particular, we learned that kin groups are ranked within a hierarchy and that kin relations play a very important role in many aspects of their social structure.
We have returned to Yakushima, and it is now autumn. Autumn is the start of the Yakushima macaques mating season, and the time when the social dynamics of troop are constantly changing. The year in the life of a Japanese macaque can be divided into two periods: the birth season, beginning in spring, and the mating season, beginning in fall. A characteristic sign of estrus female is their bright red faces. One more sign is the bright red perianal sexual skin. This area has no fur and thus serves as a strong visual signal to the males. When the face and hind end are bright red, all males know that the female is in estrus. A male's face also turns red in the mating season. Male's testicles also become bright red and increase in size. They also raise the hairs on the shoulders and backs to increase their body size in display towards other males and to females. In Japanese macaque mating behavior, the male will mount the male several times, sitting down after each mount, and then groom or be groomed by the female. In this way, mating proceeds between a consort pair. A particularly characteristic of female Japanese macaque sexual behavior is that even after conceiving, a female will come into estrus 2 to 3 times and mate. On Yakushima, females come into estrus at 4 or 5 years of age. They give birth to their first offspring at 5 or 6 years of age. After giving birth, it is rare for a female to come into estrus the following mating season. Once the infant reaches 1 to 2 years of age, the female will come back into estrus frequently. In the mating sequence, there are distinct behaviors. One of these is called testing. The male inspects the female's perianal regions. A behavior called presenting is performed by the female towards the male. She presents her red perianal regions towards the male. Another behavior performed by males is called the hind-quarter display. The male walks in front of the female and turns back to stare and smack his lips together at her. The basic social unit of Japanese macaque society is a troop. Within the troop live multiple adult males and females. This type of social structure is called the multi-male, multi-female troop. When we first started our research here, while there are many small troops of 10 or more individuals, there are also larger troops with as many as 60 individuals in it. There are 3 main types of social change: troop fission, troop extinction, and troop takeover by an outside male. In 1973, there was one large group named Koshima troop. This troop fissioned in 1976 and again in 1977. As a result, 3 troops were created. These 3 new troops had to split up the previous home range amongst themselves. For the first several years, M troop was the most dominant of the 3 groups. However, afterwards, males began to immigrate out of the troop. Subsequently, the overall number of members began to decline until there were only 3 individuals in the troop remaining. Finally, these 3 individuals moved into the neighboring group. This was the first time in the long history of Japanese macaque research that a troop was verified to become extinct. Studying this phenomenon, we plot the relationship between troop size and home range size. We find a strong correlation between the 2 variables. Larger troops have larger home range. If a troop loses part of its home range, the number of troop members will decrease. We have also learned that troop size is closely related to the number of available food trees in the home range of a group. Let us now take a look at the actual takeover of Troop B by an outside male that occurred in 1996. The approximately 30 members B troop was average size for Yakushima macaque troops. This is the alpha male Baba of B troop. Two powerful-looking males approaches from outside of the troop. One of these males is Piero. Piero was attempting to take over control of B troop. This other outsider male is Maru. These males have left their own troops and are approaching several other troops in the area, searching for the optimal new group for them to transfer into. The display behavior of adult males includes the barking-like vocalization and branch shaking. This is an important way for adult males to ascertain the strengths of rival males. When an outsider male backs out and shakes branches, the troop's alpha climbs up a tree and responds in the same way. Sometimes such encounter will even escalate into direct physical contact and fighting. This is Maru. He is mating with female in the periphery of the troop. The troop's S-class females also try to approach outside males for mating. From the female's viewpoint, they try to bring the strongest male into their troop. B troop's alpha male Baba and the second-ranking male are monitoring Maru. Nervously watching, Baba mounts the second-ranking male. One-on-one, Baba is no match for Maru. In places like Yakushima, where many troops exist, non-troop males frequently approach to gain access to new troops during the mating season. By the age of 6 or 7, all males will leave their natal troop. Among the animals born into a troop, all males transfer out. This is a system known as a matrilineal society. This means that the troop is made up of kin groups based on mother, daughter, and sister-associated matrilines. A few days later, Baba is seen mating with a female. The monkeys are alerted by something. The non-troop male Piero has approached to the group. Baba grimaces and lets out an alarm call. One against one, Baba is no match and loses the female to Piero. The troop males have joined together and attack Piero. Troop males will join together in effort to defend the troop from the approaches of outsider males. Baba is able to bring back the female. Baba holds on to the female that he has brought back out onto the road. Baba seems momentarily relieved. Rival Piero comes out from the forest. Maru follows closely behind. The three males are all here at once. Baba grimaces and cries out as Piero approaches more closely. It is apparent that Piero is dominant over Baba. However, this time the fight is with Maru. Maru boldly approaches the troop. Piero threatens Maru, and the troop males join in to help. Piero is back up on the road. Baba continues to guard the females, but he appears frustrated and confused as Piero approaches and he loses control of the females. Maru approaches and Piero stands back slightly. Maru attacks. The situation has changed by the following morning. Maru had successfully won the conflict and walked brazenly in front of the troop members. He boldly walks with females in the center of the troop, displaying his power and newly won status. Maru mates with females out in the open among members of the troop. Baba no longer resists and appears resigned to the situation. This expression is called a grimace and is actually a signal of subordinance to Maru. Maru's takeover of a troop is now complete. Among females, rank is based on the relative status of their kin group to other kin groups in the troop. Males eventually leave their troop of birth and enter a new one without any kin group members. These severe exchanges and competition is the energy and stimulus of social change.
私たちはですね、
Shortly after World War II, Dr. Imanishi began his study of horses. Shunzo Kawamura studied the deer of Nara, and I helped in their research. After that, we started research on the Japanese macaque. When we compare monkeys with horses and deer, a great difference is apparent. With monkeys, it is possible to make many analogies of their social behavior with that of ours. Monkey society is based on life within a troop in which individuals are tied to one another by many different kinds of social relationships. Our research on the Japanese macaque first provided a reference point and showed us the way and the possibilities for asking the many questions we had about the evolution of humankind. I think that this was one of the biggest rewards we gained from this work.
こういうふうに思ってるわけです。